I call Poto Williams.
Oh, kia ora, Mr. Speaker. Greetings to everyone in Christchurch, and particularly to those in Christchurch East who I know will be listening. I don't know, perhaps it's me, who will be listening with great interest, because we all know that this is an opportunity for us to transition from what has been to what could be. And Mr. Speaker, I want to spend a few minutes just reflecting on those who not only lost their lives, but those who lost their homes, those who lost their communities, those families who were displaced by the effects not only of the earthquake sequence, but what happened post-earthquake with regards to red zoning of the land, people having to move from communities that they had lived in for a long time, the disruption that has happened in our communities, which will always change not only their lives, but our lives forever. Mr. Speaker, I want to say that I am concerned that the regeneration plan, the transition plan, misses out some significant voices. It misses out the voices of our children, our children who will be the people that take over the city in its new and shiny form once we have regenerated. It misses out the voices of our communities, and it misses out the voices of those who are most impacted. And I urge the Minister to reconsider the opportunity for our community voices to be heard during this plan, during this process, by extending the process to include those voices. I'm concerned, Mr. Speaker, about the powers that the Minister does hold in this transition phase, that the people of Christchurch are not being given the opportunity to take the power back into their hands. There's no doubt that transition is required, that we cannot move from one organisation, one entity, one phase to another without a transition plan and without good thinking around that. However, 5 years is 5 years too long. And we have good people in our city that can do this work and should be charged to take care of their own and have the power to do that. I'm concerned that the Minister has the ability to change plans that have already been set in place, plans that have been consulted to and by and with the community, and plans that make sense to people who live in the city. I'm concerned that the Minister also has the ability to acquire land and to set the compensation that may be offered to people who currently own that land. And I remind the Minister that there are still some very disaffected people in the eastern suburbs of Christchurch, like the Quake outcasts, where a decision was made in the High Court that has not been honoured by the Minister. I'm concerned about the ability to dismantle the RMA. The Minister has the ability to change what is a very, very good document, Mr. Speaker, and I'm concerned that the appeal rights with regards to the RMA have to go to the High Court instead of going through the Environment Court, where you have the ability to take evidence and to hear evidence. I'm concerned that the Select Committee is going to take evidence and be completed by the end of the year, and that the report back date is February. And I completely concur with Megan Woods. It is a sensible idea, Mr. Speaker, to ensure that everybody has the opportunity to present to the Select Committee, and that the process should be extended out to March, because there will be lots of people who want to have their say, because there have been decisions made by this government throughout the last 5 years that have impacted the way people have lived their lives, where they have not had the ability to have their say. Or if they have had their say, it has been disregarded. The thousands of people who had to leave their homes when their homes and their land and their properties were red zoned. Minister, I just want to remind you of the distress that causes to people when they have to leave a place that they love behind. And with regards to these processes, please take full regard of the fact that our communities want to have a say and they want for their voices to be heard. What is the input for our community? We would really love for you, Minister, to spell out how they can be engaged in this and that you will give them the full regard that they deserve. Because this plan should not just be about regeneration, it should be about aspiration. It should be about a city that we want to create together for the people who will live there, not only now but into the future. It should be about putting behind us the hurts, the physical hurts, the emotional hurts, the trauma, and coming out of this process with something that is better than we currently have. Mr. Speaker, I want to speak particularly about what is happening in the New Brighton area, and I pay tribute to our local elected members and our mayor and councillors for their encouragement and I guess advocacy to ensure that New Brighton is part of the regeneration plan. The New Brighton area, if any of you have the opportunity to come to Christchurch, I urge you to come to New Brighton to see what remains to be done. It's a very, very visible representation of what hasn't been achieved in our city. I urge you to come. I urge you to see what still needs to be done. So I am encouraged, Minister, to see that New Brighton is part of the regeneration plan. It has its own specific area. One point, though, that I am concerned about, that the area does include the Rafiri domain and what that may mean for that domain. The golf course is actually excluded from that. Thank you. That's all right. So when we look at the area that in Schedule 4 that outlines New Brighton, included is the Rafiri domain. There you go, Mr. Farfoy. The Rafiri Golf Links it's a public course, yes, and it's not part of New Brighton, apparently, according to the Schedule 4. But what is included is the mall. What is included is a small area at the southern end of New Brighton, which really is the heart of the revitalisation of our area. If we get this right in New Brighton, it has the opportunity to lift the eastern suburbs to be the gem of Christchurch, as those of us who live there actually know that it is. We love the New Brighton Mall, but I urge this government to recognise that there has been significant work done on the revitalisation of New Brighton in terms of the master planning. Mrs Hayes mentioned Paul Zarnin, who is part of a wider New Brighton conglomerate of groups such as the New Brighton Project, Renew Brighton, Surf, who have done an extraordinary amount of work to ensure that the plans for New Brighton include the New Brighton Master Plan as devised by Council, has been consulted widely with our community, and the vital piece that has always been missing from the revitalisation of New Brighton has been central government. So I am heartened to see that New Brighton is part of this regeneration plan. I urge you to listen to the voices of local people. Please do not mess this up. New Brighton deserves much better than it currently has. I commend this bill. We will be watching it with great interest. I encourage you, Mr Brownlee, as Minister, to sit in on as many of the hearings as you can to hear the voices directly from the people. Thank you, Mr Speaker.